Ever wondered how websites have interactive elements? JavaScript makes that possible. Welcome to the intriguing universe of JavaScript, a high-level interpreted programming language. This powerful tool breathes life into static web pages, transforming them into dynamic, interactive platforms. JavaScript, often abbreviated as JS, is the programming language of HTML and the web. It's one of the three core technologies of the World Wide Web, standing shoulder to shoulder with HTML and CSS. While HTML provides the structure and CSS adds the style, JavaScript is the magician behind the curtain, adding the behavior and interactivity that makes the web more than just a digital brochure. From creating responsive user interfaces to building complex web applications, JavaScript is the engine that powers the modern web. It's an essential skill for any budding web developer and a cornerstone of the world's most popular websites and web applications. So, are you ready to dive into the fascinating world of JavaScript? Buckle up because we are about to get started. Before we start coding, we need to understand the syntax or the grammar of JavaScript. Think of JavaScript as a language, and just like any language, it has its own set of rules and structure. That's what we call syntax. Syntax is the backbone of any programming language, and JavaScript is no exception. Firstly, let's talk about how to declare variables. In JavaScript, we use the keyword var to declare a variable. For example, var_x declares a variable named x. Simple, right? But hold on, there's more. In modern JavaScript, we also have let and const for variable declaration. Let is used when the variable's value is going to change, and const is used when the value is constant. Next, we have different data types. JavaScript is dynamically typed, meaning a variable can hold different types of values because it's not bound to any single type. The basic data types in JavaScript are numbers, strings, and booleans. For example, var_x = 10 assigns a number, var_y = hello assigns a string, and var_z = true assigns a boolean value. Also, an important part of any programmer's life, comments. Comments are lines of code that JavaScript will intentionally ignore. Comments are a great way to leave notes to yourself and to others who will later need to figure out what that code does. In JavaScript, we use // for single-line comments and os for multi-line comments. Understanding JavaScript syntax is just like learning the ABCs before starting to read and write. It's all about understanding the basics before diving into more complex concepts. Once you get the hang of it, you'll find it's not as intimidating as it seems. Now that we understand the syntax, it's time to move on to some exciting stuff, writing code. It's time to write our first JavaScript code. Sounds exciting, right? Let's embark on this journey together. We'll start with something simple, yet iconic, the Hello World program. This program is often the first one that newbies to any programming language learn to write. It's a tradition, a rite of passage, if you will, and it's also a great way to get your feet wet. So let's get started. First, we need to establish a place to write our code. For JavaScript, this will be within the script tags in an HTML file. The script tags tell the browser that what's inside is JavaScript code. Next, we'll use the console log function. This is a built-in function in JavaScript that prints the specified message to the web console. The message we want to print is Hello World. To do this, we place our message inside the parentheses and in quotes, like this, console.log Hello World. So in full, our code will look like this. This is it. You've written your first JavaScript code. When you run this in a browser, the message Hello World will appear in the web console. But what if you want to see your message directly on your web page, not just in the console? Well, you can use the document.write function instead, like this. Now, Hello World will appear directly on your web page. See, coding in JavaScript isn't as intimidating as it might seem. You've just written your first JavaScript code, and believe me, this is just the beginning. We've got a lot more to cover, and with each new concept, you'll become more confident and skilled. Congratulations on writing your first JavaScript code. Let's explore more. Ever heard of the term function in programming? It's a critical concept in JavaScript. Let's dive into the world of JavaScript functions. Think of functions as mini programs within a program. They are self-contained chunks of code that can be reused throughout your script, making your code cleaner, more efficient, and easier to manage. Creating a function in JavaScript involves two main steps: defining the function and then calling it. To define a function, we use the function keyword followed by a unique function name and then parentheses. Inside these parentheses, you can include any parameters your function might need. Parameters are just placeholders for the actual values that will be passed into the function later. After the parentheses, we add curly braces, which contain the block of code that the function will execute. For instance, let's create a function that multiplies two numbers. We'll call it multiply. Our function definition will look like this: function multiply, num1, num2, return num1 asterisk num2. Now, how do we use this function? That's where calling or invoking the function comes in. We simply write the function's name, followed by parentheses containing the actual values or arguments we want to pass into the function. So, if we want to multiply 7 by 3, we'd call our function like this: multiply 7, 3. The function will then execute its code block using these arguments, returning 21. Functions can be as simple or as complex as you need them to be. They can take multiple parameters, return values, and even call other functions. Why are functions so useful? Well, they allow us to write reusable code. Instead of writing the same code over and over again, we can write a function once and then call it whenever we need it. This not only saves time, but also makes our code more readable and maintainable. In addition, functions help us to organize our code. We can group related code into a function, making it easier to understand and debug. Functions are a powerful tool in JavaScript. Practice creating a few on your own. Objects are another fundamental aspect of JavaScript. Let's learn about them. In the realm of JavaScript, objects are quite crucial. An object is a standalone entity with properties and type. Think of it as an all-in-one package where you can store related data and functions. It's like a neat little box where you can tuck away different but related things. For instance, a car can be an object. This car can have properties like color, model, and it can have functions like start, stop, or accelerate. Creating an object in JavaScript is quite simple. You begin by declaring a variable, then you assign that variable an object using curly braces. Inside these braces, you can define the properties and their values, separating each by a comma. The syntax goes something like this: let my car equals sign, color red, model, sedan, start function, console log the car has started. Here, my car is the object, color and model are properties with red and sedan as their respective values, and start is a method, which is essentially a function inside an object. Now you may ask, why are objects so important? Why can't we just use variables and functions separately? Well, objects provide structure and context to our code. They allow us to encapsulate related data and functions into one entity, making our code cleaner and easier to understand. For instance, instead of having separate variables for car color, car model, and separate functions for car start, car stop, we can group them all under one object, my car. This not only makes our code more organized, but also enables us to think in terms of real-world entities and their behaviors. Moreover, JavaScript is an object-oriented language. This means that almost everything in JavaScript is an object or can be treated as an object. This makes understanding and using objects critical in mastering JavaScript. So, the crux of the matter is, objects are not just another aspect of JavaScript. They are a way to group related data and functions. They make our code cleaner and easier to understand. We've covered a lot of ground today, but this is just the beginning of our JavaScript journey. Let's quickly recap what we've learned. We started with an introduction to JavaScript, understanding its importance and where it fits in the world of programming. Then, we dove into the syntax basics, exploring how JavaScript communicates with your computer. We learned about writing our first JavaScript code, taking the first steps towards becoming adept programmers. Next, we examined JavaScript functions, those indispensable tools which help us perform specific tasks efficiently. And finally, we delved into JavaScript objects, understanding how they allow us to store structured data, making our code more flexible and powerful. But remember, this is just the start. The world of JavaScript is vast and ever-evolving. It's now time to roll up your sleeves and apply what you've learned. Write code, make mistakes, learn, and write again. Keep practicing what you've learned today. Remember, consistency is key in mastering JavaScript. Until next time, happy coding!